So good to be here. We have a neutral rating on the stock, and one of the reasons we've had a neutral rating on the stock has been the company's valuation, which is what this report talks about. Um, Block essentially doesn't really have any gap earnings, and Block's stock-based comp has been relatively high, and because of the way, the SEC allows many companies, they can add back stock-based comp and get to a non-GAAP number. So at this point, we're not really seeing anything illegal, if you will. We knew about the Afterpay transaction. We knew that this is a transaction that kind of didn't really work very well for the company. So again, so far there's really nothing new. Now, about the disclosure about inflating the user-based data. So a lot of this is based on former employees that have been interviewed by the shop here. So it almost feels as if they're kind of begging the SEC to kind of take a second look at what these guys are doing. Um, so I mean, at this point, look, Square or Block is a legitimate player in the space. Fundamentally, they do have the best monetization model in the fintech industry. Look at what they've done, facing merchants. Look what they've done facing consumers. Um, and again, it's really difficult to validate or legitimize the statements, whether they're made or not, by former employees here. Ultimately, these are all kind of arguments that the companies kind of have to talk about and address down the road. But is Square a legitimate business? It is. Can they potentially have kind of played and, you know, maybe, came out with numbers that are not necessarily the right numbers in terms of user data? It's possible too. I mean, PayPal a year and a half ago told us that, the half a billion dollar user base that they had wasn't really, the right number to use. We were supposed to use about a third of that as a legitimate user base. So doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do, but again, I guess companies do that sometimes, and they tend to inflate some of the user base data. But at this point, so far, I'm not seeing anything that tells me that the accounting here is fraudulent, and
Right.
the actual numbers here are not really the real numbers. So we're going to have to wait and see.